Good evening. You are watching Uninterrupted with Arif Shaikh on Canada One Television. Normally you have seen me with different guests. We are talking mainly about the Canadian politics, Canadian system, society, and many other things. I remember a few years ago I interviewed one of the gentlemen, one of the nicest gentlemen, who came to my studio and we interviewed because he was the candidate to become the mayor in the city of Brampton. When I interviewed him, he promised me that after becoming the mayor, he will visit my studio again and I will interview him again. Over the period, the time did not permit us to meet again. He was very busy because he was trying to bring this city again into the limelight because he wanted to make the change, not only into the city, but also into the life of the citizen of the city. And I have the honor of interviewing him again. I have in my studio the Mayor of Brampton, Mr. Patrick Brown. Patrick, good evening.
Great to talk with you again.
Oh, thank you very much for coming to my show again. So how is Brampton doing now?
Brampton's doing great. Yeah, it's fastest growing economy in the country right now. We've been booming in terms of economic development, booming on housing. You know, Brampton actually surpassed Mississauga in population, which was quite historic earlier this year. But look at the economic development growth. You know, MDA has the largest aerospace investment right now. They've got the $1 billion Canada space contract, rocket science jobs. Lululemon's opened the largest facility in North America in Brampton. Pet Value, largest facility in Eastern Canada. So we've had some really exciting industrial developments in our city, and we're going to continue to push. Listen, cities always have challenges.
Yeah,
right now we're dealing with a big snowfall that we've been busy cleaning up. We've had some issues around public safety with auto thefts, but I managed to get the federal government to give us container scanners to help us deal with the growth in auto theft. So every challenge that comes, you know, I always say, where there's a will, there's a way. If we can be creative, we can find a way to solve that challenge. And so, you know, being mayor of Brampton keeps me pretty busy.
I remember when I interviewed before your election, you have a full agenda of things. I want to do this, I want to do this. And right after the interview, I got a few phone calls. They said, are you sure that he will be able to manage all this? So how much you are comfortable that you have, how much you have achieved what you promised when you become the mayor?
You know, I have to say, I feel we're very much on our way to achieving all our promises. I promised that we would get funding for a tunneled LRT into the downtown. Thanks to the support of the provincial government, we now have a tunneled LRT coming into downtown Brampton. I said that we would campaign to get a second hospital. The second hospital groundbreaking is happening on March 28th. We have a regional cancer center coming to be added to Brampton Civic. I said that we would get a med school. We now have a med school that is opening this summer. First new med school in the GTA in 100 years. And one thing I remember talking to you about is I promised we would make Brampton the cricket capital of Canada.
Exactly.
And 6.5 years ago, I made that promise, and boy, have we seen a difference. When I started, there were signs up, no cricket allowed on tennis courts and parking lots. Now we've built some of the best amenities. And as you know, you know, when Bonnie Crombie turned away the GT20 in Mississauga, we took them and continued to say, we're going to invest in cricket. We want tournaments. We want players. We want to make this the best place in the country to play.
And we have seen the best player around the world came and play in Brampton. And Brampton was on the map of cricket around the world.
Well, and you know, I've actually got to know a lot of them, which has been really fun. I was actually in Pakistan last year, and I got to watch a match with Shahid Afridi.
Yeah, and we saw those pictures and videos.
Yeah, actually, I saw him again at the T20. We watched the Canada-Pakistan match together.
In United States.
In the United States,
you were there, I remember. So definitely you have made the difference. So how was the favor or response from the federal and provincial government?
We've got a great relationship right now. I'd say with the federal government, we've got a number of projects we're working very well on. The Riverwalk, our public transit expansion, the electrification of our transit fleet. So the federal government has been a great partner. Provincially, listen, Premier Ford has hit a home run for us with the new hospital and with the LRT tunnel and the medical school. Those are all massive projects that we got a ton of support. To put that in context, we've never had this level of support ever in the history of Brampton in terms of funding. This is about funding at the rate probably 20 times in the last few years, 20 times more than in the previous 20 years.
So you are comfortable that this system will continue, but what will happen? There's an election coming up in the province.
Well, I think all the polls suggest that you're going to see a pretty large government for Premier Ford. It looks like he'll probably be returned with a larger mandate. And I think that's a good thing. I think he's the best person for the job. And we have some significant threats right now with Donald Trump and the tariffs, and I think he's up to that challenge. I certainly think that his opponents are not up to the job. I look at, when Bonnie Crombie was mayor of Mississauga, they were the only big city to shrink in size. Their economy dwindled. She raised taxes to record levels as she chased businesses out. And so I don't. If she did to Ontario what she did to Mississauga, that could put our finances in a precarious position. And so I think the choice is pretty easy this election. I really think that Doug Ford is the best choice for our province.
How important it was for Doug Ford to call a snap election? And do you think it will make him more stronger and it will be better for the province?
Listen, to be blunt, I'm sure he looked at Bonnie Crombie in disarray with, very poor candidates and realized that this is a good time to have a larger mandate. But I do think it puts him in a stronger position when he's negotiating on behalf of Ontario, on behalf of Canada, with this tariff threat in the U.S. If you have a 4-year mandate, if you have a large majority, I think it gives you a stronger bargaining position. And don't underestimate Trump. Trump is looking at taking jobs from Canada. He's looking at repatriating jobs, and he's going after our auto jobs. He's going after our steel jobs, and we have to take this threat seriously.
Yeah,
we got to protect those jobs. We got to protect Ontario and keep those jobs in our province.
I think Premier Ford was the first one who stood and replied to him, and he said, "This is what if you're going to do this to us, we will immediately respond."
Yeah, I thought he's been very strong in terms of understanding the severity of the tariff threat, and I think we need a strong leader during these difficult times.
Why you think? Because being a mayor of Brampton, you also have share the council, the regional council with Bonnie Crombie while she was the mayor of Mississauga. Why you think that she will not be a proper fit for the premier job in Ontario?
Well, listen, I think Mississauga was very well served when you had Hazel McCallion. I think she was the best mayor in Canadian history, the gold standard.
Yeah.
And at the time, Mississauga's economy was booming, housing booming, job growth booming. But Hazel was careful. Hazel didn't raise taxes. She cut red tape. She would always realize there was a global competition for investment. And I think Mississauga did very well under her leadership. Something changed when Bonnie got elected. She started having, record tax increases each year. It was very slow to do business in Mississauga. The staff were not responding, a lot of red tape. And look what happened. The only big city in Canada to shrink in size during the Stats Canada reporting period. They actually shrunk. And my approach to government is you want to get shovels in the ground. You want to encourage economic activity.
Exactly.
And so, I had difference of opinions with Bonnie around that council table. I didn't feel that she supported the police, and I believe public safety is a major issue. I want to make sure we have the police capacity to respond. I also, had a big disagreement with her on Bill 21. There was a bill that said in Quebec, if you wear a hijab or a cross or a turban, you lose your job if you're a government worker. And it's being challenged to the Supreme Court, so it could be a precedent on all Canadians.
Exactly.
And so I led a campaign of cities across the country to fight that bill, because religious freedom is something that needs to be protected.
Exactly.
If Muslims are being bullied in Quebec, it's our job in the province next door to stand up for them.
Exactly.
And, I've been leading this fight against Bill 21, but I feel it's the right thing to do. No one should lose their job based on their faith in Canada. And Bonnie's approach was she didn't want to take a position. She when other mayors backed me up and supported me on this fight, she ran away. And so I just don't think leaders run away. I think leaders have the courage to do what is right. And if one community is being bullied, we're all being bullied. Leaders don't disappear during difficult moments.
Well, I have a few more things I think I wanted to talk. While we are now talking about the provincial election, I know you also have another link with the provincial election. Your mother-in-law is also one of the candidates from the PC party.
Yeah,
running
Sylvia Gualtieri is running against Bonnie Crombie in Mississauga, East Cooksville.
We'll talk
And
about
so,
it.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an exciting race.
I wanted to go for a quick break. When I come back, I really wanted to know exactly why you think Sylvia is an appropriate and right candidate for this riding. Stay tuned with me. So we are going for a short break. We'll come back. Mr. Mayor Brown also have a close link with this upcoming election, where his mother-in-law is a candidate, and not only a candidate, but candidate in one of the sensitive riding, one of the riding where the whole province is looking, and that riding where the leader of the party, Liberal Party, Bonnie Crombie, will be going against Sylvia, who is the mother-in-law of Patrick Brown, and everybody wanted to see this election. Stay tuned with us.
I'm Sylvia Gualtieri, your PC candidate from Mississauga, East Cooksville. I'm working to protect our jobs, our children, our families, and our health care. As a school teacher, a small business owner, and a mom, I know what matters to our community. Safer streets, more money in your family's pockets, and supporting our seniors. Our way of life in Ontario is being threatened, and Doug Ford is the only leader who can defend our beautiful province. On February 27th, vote Sylvia Gualtieri for MPP, vote for the Ontario PCs, and vote to protect Ontario.
Welcome back. You're watching Uninterrupted with Arif Shaikh. Today my guest is Mayor Brampton, Mr. Patrick Brown, and we are talking about the provincial election happening in Ontario on February 27. Let's see what happens there. But there are a few very important things, and that is why we requested Mayor Patrick Brown to come to our studio, as we wanted some more information, not only for ourselves, but also for the viewers and the voters of Ontario, so that can give you the guideline, who to vote, where to vote, and who should represent you in the House of Commons. Patrick, do you remember there's a video going on, and that is the leader of the Liberal Party, Bonnie Crombie, is kicking out one of the guy who was wearing the that kaffa with the Palestinian scarf. Do you think that we have the society ready for this type of situation?
So, I think it speaks to who Bonnie Crombie is. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. And just like Bill 21, when she didn't support the community, the fact that you had the Palestinian community wanting to wear the kaffa at that event, and she didn't permit it, I think really speaks to the fact that she runs away. She lacks courage. And I look what happened in the provincial legislature, where the speaker wanted to ban the kaffa, and Premier Ford criticized that decision, saying that it's not up for government to tell you how you can express yourself.
Exactly.
And frankly, I've been a bit outspoken on the humanitarian catastrophe that we've seen occur. The fact that residents in Mississauga wanted to express their grief, and she didn't want to even permit that, for me is deeply disappointing.
So now, Bonnie Crombie, the leader of the Liberal Party in Ontario, is also a candidate in one of the riding, and that riding is very near to you, because your mother-in-law, Sylvia Gualtieri, is one of the candidates there. How you see this combination? Who should be representing this riding in the parliament?
Well, I don't think Bonnie Crombie has served Mississauga well. She's no Hazel McCallion, that's for sure. And I think Sylvia Gualtieri will be a hard worker. She will put the riding first. She won't put herself first. She will put the people of Mississauga East Cooksville first. I would say the previous MPP, Khalid, I believe is a good man. Disappointing that it didn't work out for him, but now it's an opportunity for the riding to pick a new MPP. And I believe that that Sylvia will fight for them. And she's getting a lot of support from Mississauga. I saw at her campaign events, I saw Councillor Sue McFadden there, Councillor Brad Butt there. Those are people that worked with Bonnie, and are now volunteering for Sylvia. I was at an event where I saw Peter McCallion Hazel McCallion's son, who publicly has supported Sylvia, so she's getting a ton of support, and that's, it's exciting for her. So I'm obviously, supporting her. I think she'd be a great MPP, and it's going to be an exciting race.
As soon as the election was announced, until that time there was no particular riding selected for Bonnie Cromie. Why you think she went to this particular riding?
So she has no attachment or connection to the riding. So I think that's a question that they'd have to ask Bonnie Crombie. She's certainly not running where she lives, but it's not fair for me to speculate. But what I would say is, Sylvia has been a lifelong resident of Mississauga, very involved in a number of the community programs in Mississauga, and she loves her city.
I have seen some visual where you were also attending some of the campaign activity for Sylvia. How you find the response from people? They're excited, they're willing to work.
I think it's been a very good response. I was at her campaign office opening, and there's a very encouraging response. And so, I think this is going to be one of the ridings to watch. I think it's pretty clear that Doug Ford is going to win this election, but I think this riding in particular will be close, so it matters. I'd encourage residents to get out and vote. Democracy is something that works best when you participate. And I know it's cold, I know it's winter, but don't forget to exercise your democratic right. There are advanced polls coming up this weekend. Get out and vote. And then on election day, if you haven't had the chance to vote in advanced polls, then vote on election day. But there are parts of the world where we don't have democracy, and voter turnout is too low at every level of government in Canada. And so I really encourage everyone to have their voice heard, it's, I think, our duty as citizens to participate.
Do you think that Sylvia is one of the potential candidates to become a minister once she's in the parliament?
She'll be a first-time MPP, so there'll be a number of people that are probably further ahead in the pecking order, but I think she could handle any task that was presented to her, and if they asked her to take on a challenging task, I'm sure she could handle it well.
So being your mother-in-law, you think it helped her campaign, or she feels some resistance?
Listen, I know a lot of people in Mississauga and Brampton. I've been attending community events for a long time. Peel Region is a bit like a big family, and so I know she's been going to those same events, and so I think because of her activism, she's been a volunteer for a long time, that some of these relationships are natural.
Okay. So the city of Brampton, I know you're very busy there, so you're able to spare some time and help her out?
A campaign's there are only 7 days left. It's a very short campaign, but I'm so busy running the city that I don't have a lot of time. I haven't been able to get out and go door knocking, but my wife, Sylvia's daughter, Genevieve, has been out all the time knocking on doors for her mother, and she tells me the response has been great. And so I hear from my wife when she comes back at night, frozen from all this cold weather door knocking, that she's very proud of her mother.
Being an experienced, and my last question, thank you very much, I know it's a lot of time I'm taking. Being an experienced politician, you've been to the federal government, to provincial, to city, everywhere. What will be your advice to the voters, specifically in that riding, generally in the whole province? What should they see before they go and cast their vote?
I think what you should ask yourself is who will fight for you. When it comes to dealing with Donald Trump and the tariffs, who do you want to go to bat for Ontario? Do you want a weak leader, or do you want someone like Doug Ford, who has certainly shown that he is tenacious in fighting for Ontario jobs to protect our province? The other question I think voters should ask is, who will be out there to advocate for you when you need help? You don't want someone who's just there for photo ops. Who's going to be the MPP that will take your issue seriously? There's a lot of provincial issues, from healthcare to education, that you may need the provincial government. And I think the question is, who will be there to do that casework on your behalf?
And you are confident that Sylvia will be a perfect fit, not only for the riding, but for the province as well?
I think she's a hard worker. I think that's what residents deserve. They deserve a hard worker, and she certainly is.
So can you make a promise on her behalf once she becomes the member of provincial parliament? She will come to our studio for an interview with us as well?
I guarantee that she will be on Canada One, because a great way to talk to your residents is to come on a platform like this. Canada One TV has such a large reach. It's a respected media outlet, and it's one of the reasons I've always enjoyed coming on the show.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much, and I'm pretty comfortable that in 2025 for another cricket event we'll cross the path again, and there will be more people coming to play in your city.
Cricket capital of Canada.
Cricket capital of Canada, no doubt about it. Thank you very much for coming to my show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we have this interview with Mayor Patrick Brown. You need to remember one thing, as Mr. Mayor said, this is our civic responsibility that we should go out and cast the vote. Very important. I know it's very cold. I know there's a lot of snow on the ground, but you can do some advanced polling with your own time, with your own comfort. Go out, vote. It is very important that you send the right people, right person to represent you, your riding, your area, your province, so they can grow together. Thank you very much for watching Canada One.